Vulture, this is Underbutler, and today I will be going over a piece I'm not happy with. Again, this was originally supposed to be a friend's character avatar, done in a style of the Bumblebee, with the great popping eyes and mildly dopey appearance. This didn't really work out like that, and I feel there's a lot of good examples of what not to do in this drawing, as well as a few useful things I learned from it. If you would like to see me properly do this sort of character in the Bumblebee style, I will have a video up within the week, or next week, that will have the character done properly in the style, with the style even being cleaned up some. I'll add that to the cards in the top right once it's out. I will discuss the issues with this drawing in rough segments, starting off the positives I've taken from doing this drawing, moving swiftly on to the issues of attempting too much detail and doing the detail poorly, and then tackling a foundational issue that doomed this from the get-go: proportions and stylistic consistency. I'll end on the point of broken perspective and a failure to plan my background. So without further ado, let's dive into this mess I've made and talk about it in overly indulgent depth. In terms of what I liked about this painting and the value I've taken from it, I've gotten to play around with a bunch of new brushes and found some methods for detailing that I really enjoy, and if applied correctly can have some really stunning effects. So this painting has been incredible in terms of testing out a wider range of brush options than I'd regularly use, such as the paint roller, glow and burn options, as well as a brush design for adding detail to hair. That last one I believe I misused in terms of how to get the best effects out of it to rather dramatic effects, but I'll expand on that slightly later. The glow and the burn options are incredibly good for adding certain elements of shading, if you're able to colour shift them in a fashion that really lets you play to their full strength. I've started to use them more heavily for helping with certain elements of my newer paintings, specifically on a set of paintings for flowers that I did. That'll be coming up soon as well. The paint roller was really the one that just clicked in my head when using it in this painting, specifically towards the end. You can see at the start I was blocking in areas using it, which was inspired by how David Revoir does his comic panels. I did slightly ham-fist that, but I'll probably explore that a bit more whilst using a bit more tact in the future. However, the part I really value with the paint roller was doing the lamp in the background and doing this more blocky, painterly style. A style I struggled really hard to capture in my own work, both physically and digitally. I've really struggled to stop myself from trying to add superfluous detail that generally breaks the art of suggestion in work, and finally having a tool that clicks for me in that fashion of painting makes me feel amazing. I really do hope I can bring this into my work more and use this tool more in the future. Being able to suggest form with broader strokes is such an important skill for artists, as it shows the ability to concisely break objects down into their most basic construction, the blocks of light and colour that make the objects distinguishable and readable to the human eye. In general with this drawing, I could have either simplified the details or stopped adding to them at an earlier stage, and it would have been a far more effective piece. The fur detailing wasn't detailed enough to look realistic and wasn't minimalist enough to just give suggestions, so in the end it just came off as poorly done hair, which it was. It's very badly done fur, and the lighting details on it were okay, but there were still lighting errors that I could have really dealt with fixing, and I fell very much into that trap where it wasn't stylistic enough for the details to work within the design, or realistic enough to pass well as real, which is very odd, as I've done a whole lot of different methods to do fur, and this appears to be one of my worst attempts at fur ever, even from back 10 years ago. A lot about how I did the shading irks me, which is probably why I didn't upload this image for, about a week after I'd made it, and still question why I posted it at all, even if I bury it within some DeviantArt folders. I'm not proud of this piece. I don't like it. And the fact that it's both being overly detailed whilst failing to have really any consideration to how they were added and leaving it unconvincing just makes me so unhappy with how this quite fun character came out of this. Even if I had done the detailing more tactfully and allowed suggestion to do more, it wouldn't have saved this painting, as there are some foundational issues there. My character line art is odd. Eye scale and style doesn't really match with a slightly more detailed body, which is closer to a more realistic interpretation of a dog than a cartoon, but not really sticking it properly realistic. It was a compromise, and that was a complete failure of trying to translate a dog character into the cartoonish round style like my bumble sheep. The eyes and the body just do not work together. The bottle for the molotov looks a bit too cartoony or video gamey compared to the character's body. The body looks too realistic compared to both round eyes and round bottles. It comes off as a mess, and it doesn't really fit as stylized or fit as semi-realistic, and so it doesn't come off as cute. With what quality of shading I did do, it doesn't really help but to exacerbate inconsistencies found in the line art. This is not helped by the fact the scenery's perspective is different to the character's body, and things do not scale properly at the distance, light does not fit correctly, and everything's a bit skew with. I really ought to have spent some more time thinking about where the character was going to be situated before just plonking him on some random background. This is easier to do with an abstract background, just to plonk them in there afterwards. But with real scenery, it fails dramatically if you approach it the way I was. I very much built this piece off of a shoddy foundation. So I very quickly, after finishing this one, turned around and started working on a new piece, resolving the issues and trying to ensure stylistically that it fit with the bumble sheep. I'll talk about more how I did that in the next video, which will be shorter, thank God. That video will exclude a couple of the false starts I recorded, which suffered from the same errors that I did on this one. And these were two false starts that took me about an hour of just fucking around trying to work out what the hell I was doing, of me hitting my head against the brick wall. So persisting with this, I should be able to try and figure out that turnaround quicker and be able to reproduce a style more consistently, more often, with various different types of bodies. And that's something I need to build on, and will probably be why I continue with this kind of little series of cutie characters, because it's at least got that adaptation practice coming in. And to be honest, this makes it a very weird video, because it's not something I'm happy about, it's not something I'm proud about, it's not something really that most people would want to show off, and I still consider just stripping off my DeviantArt. But in terms of doing it as a video, it showcases the process that led to failure, which is a learning experience. That journey is a learning experience. I can look and analyse my path and see where I took the wrong turns, where I can correct my trajectory in the coming drawings and improve them, because those are building blocks to improve. You fail to improve, so that's why I'm making this. It's showing how I'm improving as I said previously, I think a couple of times in this video, the next video will be shorter, of this improved version of this character, so I hope you would like to see that, and it would be fine when we get the design of Czrni with a molotov justice. So we'll stick around to see that one later this week, and thank you very much for your time and listening to this ramble. Mar sin ledd and drasta.